She's got a smile that seems to me reminds me of childhood memories where everything was as fresh as a bright blue sky. Now and then when I see her face, she takes me away to that special place. And if I stay too long, I'll probably break down and cry. Oh, 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 sweet child of mine. Oh, 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 sweet love of mine. She's got eyes of the bluest sky, and if they thought of rain, I hate to look into those eyes and see an ounce of pain. Her hair reminds me of a warm, safe place where as a child I'd hide. I pray for the thunder and the rain to quietly pass me by. Oh, 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 sweet child of mine. Oh, 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 sweet love of mine. Where do we go? Where do we go now? Where do we go? Where do we go now? Where do we go? Where do we go, sweet child? Where do we go now? Where do we go now? Where do we go? Where do we go? Where do we go now? Where do we go? Where do we go? Where do we go? Where do we go now? Sweet child, sweet child of mine. Hey, how you doing out there, Guitar Heroes? All right, we got a little Sweet Child of Mine by Guns N' Roses today, 1987. And first thing you start out with, which of course real common in a lot of my songs, tune down a half a step, because that's the way the original recording was. Now, you don't have to do that, but it makes it a little bit easier for singing. And of course, who can sing as high as Axl Rose? Certainly not this guy. All right, well, obviously we've got Slash's instrumental at the beginning. It's kind of an extended instrumental and intro as far as that goes. So I'm just playing the chords that are underneath that. We start with a D, and I'm going to play A-form bar chords for the D and the C. So D at the 5th fret, A-form bar chord, and then the C, drop down 2, and then the G, I'm just going to play an open G, and then back to that 5th position, A-form bar chord. So I played through that 2 times, and this is roughly the pace. 2 times through, and then we start out on one of only 2 verses, and we start with a D chord. She's got a smile that seems to me, C, reminds me of childhood memories where G, everything was as fresh as a bright blue sky. At the D, now and then when I see her face, see, she takes me to that special place. And if I G, stay too long, I'll probably break down and cry. Back to D, Okay, so now we're going to come into the chorus, and we're going to start with an A. Whoa, 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 C, sweet G, child of mine. And then on the second verse, we jump up an octave. We get to that Axl Rose voice. Whoa, 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 C. Whoa, sweet G, love of mine. Back to D. Okay, so we got a second verse, exactly the same as the first, except we've got different words. And then we move on to the chorus, repeat that one more time. And then we change things up a little bit, and we start with this E to go into that last kind of extended outro, let's say. We start with the E, G, A, and now we have a quick C, D, so you got a couple choices, right? And there's 2 hits on the C, this is the way I would do it, and then one on the D. Or you could go back to this bar chord thing and do, well, let's go from the top. E, G, A, C, D. And we're going to do that 2 times, and then we're going to go into this outro, which follows the same pattern. It's exactly the same pattern for like 8 lines. E, G, A, C, D. So we'll go through a few lines here. Where do we go? E, G. Where do we go? A. Where do we go? C, D. Where do we go? G. Where do we go now? A. Where do we go? C, D. Where do we go? Sweet child G. Where do we go now? Now Axl is ramping the voice up. And then we have I, where do we go now? Where do we go? In the last couple lines, Axl ramps up the voice, and I can't get there, so back to that same old progression. Where do we go? Where do we go now? Hey, where do we go now? C, D, where do we go? Where do we go now? Where do we go? C, C, D. And now this is our last line. We kind of slow down a little bit here. Sweet G, child, A, sweet child D of mine. And that's how it ends. So not too complicated. We basically just have the 5 open chords, the E, the G, the A, the C, and the D. So not too bad, and the pace is not too fast. Let's kind of go through check the pace on that first verse. She's got a smile, it seems to me. She reminds me of childhood memories, when everything was as fresh as a bright blue sky. Now and then I see her face, takes me to that special place. Now let's just check our chorus. See the sound of whoa, 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 sweet child of mine. Whoa, 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 sweet child of mine. So you can do a little bit of emphasis on the down strum, and then when we get to the outro, let's see if there's any different. Where do we go? Where do we go now? Where do we go? Where do we go? Where do we go now? Where do we go? I, where do we go now? Where do we go? Well, basically the same thing throughout the whole song, except for that last line where we slow down. Sweet child, sweet child of mine. All right, there you are, Child of Mine by Guns N' Roses, 1987. Not too tough of a song. It's definitely a good one. And then if you can play slash this part throughout the whole song and sing, hey, more power to you. It's a great one. All right, well, hope you got something out of this lesson. Take it easy out there, and keep one thing in mind: tune down a half if you're going to play along with the original recording. But it doesn't really matter if you're playing by yourself or with others, and then we say, hey, you know what, we're not going to tune down, we'll just play it in the standard. All right, take it easy out there, and we'll see you next time.